Hi there, it's Jeff
and Cassandra
from RV Parenting, and today we're tackling the question of whether or not you should tow a vehicle behind your RV or just rent one when you get to major cities where you're going to be spending a lot of time. It's a question that we wrestled with. Ultimately, we decided to rent a car when we were in a city for more than 3 days at a stretch, and we still feel like that was the right decision for us. But I'm going to let Cassandra tell you about some of the pros of doing that.
What I love about renting a vehicle is I'm not doing wear and tear on my vehicle, which has 126,000 miles. I like to wear my cars out, so I want to get as much value out of it as I can. We're also a family with just one vehicle. So if we're out, we're traveling, and my car breaks down, well, I don't know how long that's going to take. I don't know how much that's going to cost. And that's just one more addition to our finances I don't want to have to think about while on vacation or even just a work trip. Another added bonus is this is 34 feet, which is big. I still have not driven our RV yet out of sheer intimidation. So when you have your trailer hitch, you're going to tack on an extra anywhere between 15 to 20 feet according to your vehicle size and what you're towing along with you. So you have your 34 feet, add another 20 feet. That's 54 feet that you're driving up and down interstates, highways. And if you're anything like us, you're going to avoid Independence Pass, which will not allow you to bring a vehicle that is beyond 32 feet. So you do have your limitations when you have a trailer hitch.
And let me tell you, it can be a little intimidating driving something that's even just 34 feet. I can't quite imagine what it would be like to drive this thing and then tack on an extra 20 feet behind it. I'm sure there's plenty of you RVers out there that do that all the time. We just haven't done it yet, and I'm not sure I want to. After all, we're getting passed by 18-wheelers, which kind of whips you around on the road. We're driving through adverse conditions sometimes, not really intentionally, but driving through rain and potentially even ice or snow. I don't really want the hassles that come with towing a vehicle behind all of that while trying to maintain good control of the vehicles while I'm driving. I just don't want that hassle.
And there's also going to be plenty of times where you don't really need a vehicle. For instance, when we were at Disney World, we stayed at the camping resort. We were there for 6 days. We had no use for a vehicle. We could have used a golf cart, which is another option for a tow-along vehicle, but not necessarily something that fits into your lifestyle when you're on the road.
No, next time we go to Disney World, we're definitely going to buy a golf cart ahead of time and tow it behind this thing. But she's right. When we were at the Disney World campground, we could either take a Disney bus or a Disney boat to get to the parks. We didn't need a vehicle whatsoever. The only time it really would have come in handy is when we met some friends at Disney Springs for dinner, and we ended up Ubering it. But for the most part, we didn't need to tow a car or rent a car. And unless you're in a city more than 3 days, you arguably don't need either one.
However, camping in national parks, you may want to go into different areas of the park. Something Jeff and I like to do is camp at various locations within the park. So for instance, when we're going to Big Bend this spring for my 40th birthday, we're going to be camping in a different location where we're staying so that we can see all the different routes and hiking availability.
Well, and in Big Bend specifically, they don't really recommend RVs of this size going all the way up to the Chisos Basin at the top of the Chisos Mountains. So having a car with you comes in handy, either towed or rental. Also, next summer we plan to go to Yellowstone, and I don't think this thing towing a vehicle, I don't think we could fit into any campground in Yellowstone doing that.
A downside to renting a vehicle is there's going to be some places where they just don't have rental vehicles available. So you have to kind of think about that as well. You know, where are you going to be able to go? How much is it going to cost for rentals? I know that different programs, AARP offers discounts at different locations, car rental places. So just kind of map that out in advance as well. For instance, when we're going to Yellowstone, we'll have to rent a car in Jackson Hole and drive an hour into the park following the RV.
And AARP does in fact offer a pretty good discount through budget rental car. That's what we did for all of our rental cars on our most recent trip. I believe the discount was 30%. It was either budget or Avis. I don't quite remember which one.
It was actually both.
Okay. The other downside we encountered, at least in one of those rental cars, is the rental car had obviously been smoked in extensively, and it stunk of cigarettes. And no offense if you smoke, but we just weren't expecting that. We didn't really want that. We didn't really have any control over that. And that's that's how it goes when you're renting a car. You don't really have control over stuff like that.
But the convenience is you pick it up, you drop it off, you call it a day, and you're not having to worry about towing around a vehicle.
The other thing that we noticed was that the prices varied considerably from location to location. Even though we were basically getting the same size vehicle, we were paying a lot more in one city compared to another. That's probably supply and demand. Also, the locations where you pick them up and drop them off aren't always convenient to the campground you're staying at. That's especially true, we found, because a lot of the time we were arriving or leaving on a Sunday, and a lot of car rental places that aren't at the major airports aren't open on Sundays. So we were having to drive to an airport location because we needed to drop it off on a Sunday. Not a huge deal, but it is a consideration and something to think about.
So a common theme you're seeing with the RV parenting lifestyle is plan and be prepared to abandon those plans as necessary.
I thought that was just life in general.
It is, very much so.
And the one thing we haven't even touched on yet, which is really important, I think, is the gas mileage. This thing doesn't really get much more than 8 miles to the gallon. If we're towing my wife's Chevy Traverse behind this thing, I bet that drops to 5 or 6 miles per gallon. And with an 80-gallon tank, and we're going, you know, we put 2,000 miles on the RV this last trip. That's a huge amount of money to be spending. And is it worth it compared to just renting a car when you get to some place where you're going to be a few days?
Exactly.
Anyway, so those are the kind of the pros and the cons as we see it of whether you should tow a vehicle behind your RV or just rent one when you're in a city for more than 3 days. We definitely like the idea of renting a car, but towing a car is something that you could consider as well, especially if you're a more seasoned driver than I am and you don't mind, you know, ultimately towing something and driving something that's, you know, potentially 50 feet long.
And also location, location, location. If you're traveling within a few hours of your home base, why not tow along the vehicle to come along with you?
That's definitely true.
If you're going cross country, that's something to really consider because you are going to meet different climates. You're going to, you know, are we going on the hills? Are we going up mountains? Are we going through cities? You know, construction, everybody's favorite. You know, these are just some serious things to consider if you're going to tow along or if you're going to rent a car.
So that's really about all we have to say on whether or not you should tow a vehicle or rent one in a city.
So to tow or not to tow, that is the question.
I'm feeling a little toe up. Anyway, if you like this video, if you like our cheesy humor, please give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button and the bell notification button too. But with that, we'll see you in the next video.